Hey Internet, it's RJ. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning into the show today. Now, today's episode, we are talking about relationship banking. It's a term that gets thrown around a lot. Specifically, what does it mean? How does it work? And are there actual benefits like being able to get approved easier for credit card applications? So that's exactly what we're going to explore today. So, of course, if that sounds interesting to you, then go ahead, press the subscribe button, and let's get to work. Now, when it comes to relationship banking, there's a few different avenues to go down for this conversation. So first of all, we'll talk about what is relationship banking. Then we'll talk about how it could potentially work in relation to, getting credit cards and how we normally talk about it here. So first of all, relationship banking, is a term coined by banks because, most companies want all of your business. So, the idea is that, you would bring all of your accounts over here, your mortgage, your credit cards, your deposit accounts, your investment accounts, auto loans, all of that. Because you bank with us, you have a relationship with us, which means our advisors, our bankers can all understand you better, be able to better help and guide you through your financial products. In addition to that, sometimes we give you better perks if you have a bigger relationship with us. That's all well and good, but really what they're saying is, hey, give me more of your money and then I will give you better stuff, usually, right? Bank of America is the best example, number 2 bank by size in the country. They call theirs Preferred Rewards. I'm actually a member of Preferred Rewards in the Platinum Honors level, which requires $100,000 on deposit with Bank of America and Merrill Lynch. Don't worry, mine is not in cash. It's through an IRA. So, when you get to the IRA level, you've been working for a few years. It's not really that hard to do, but we want to be dismissive of the amount of money there. So that's really what it is. It's kind of like another sales tactic, which generally works because, most people don't want to have accounts everywhere, right? One of the biggest questions I get when someone's looking for a different credit card at another bank, they'll say, well, if I get a Citi Custom Cash, but I bank with Bank of America, how would I pay for the Citi Custom Cash bill? Well, it's actually very easy to do, but again, most people don't really want to, have accounts everywhere. So from that standpoint, relationship banking works. Now, another reason they have this is because you can't outright say, I'm going to treat you better because you have more money. You get in trouble if you do that. But what I can do is I can simply make different product tiers, and if you qualify for a product that we have documentation on, then you get the benefits that come with it. So Chase Private Client, Chase Private Bank, Wells Fargo has one, Bank of America has one. They all have one, right? And that's because you need to have some documentation around it, make it into a product with requirements, and then I can start giving you that better service. Because obviously, you're better, you're a more useful customer to me the more money you have with me. It's a pretty simple concept there, right? So really that is relationship banking. It's a way to cross-sell people products. Because again, a banking center is basically a sales floor. We just don't really think of it like that. Now, what are the benefits of this on its own? Well, again, if you take Bank of America, you do get better rates across the board. Now, how better are they in comparison to other companies? Who's to say? You still should probably shop around, but realistically, the person, who's really invested in Bank of America, from a product relationship-wise, probably doesn't want to be shopping around, and they could actually end up saying, hey, you're giving me this many points of a discount on a loan or what have you, you're waiving my account fees, it's probably fine, I'll stick with them. There is something to be said, for your local bank branch actually knowing you. I visit a lot of banks through the nature of this job, signing up for things, and I've been in line waiting to talk to a teller to get to a banker to open an account, and I've seen some people in front of me on multiple occasions asking for a cashier's check, which is usually like an $8-10 charge, and the people know them by name, and they simply just waive the fee. They say, no, we got you, we'll take care of it. Well, because they do have a relationship with that bank, so it's not to say that it doesn't come in handy at all. You definitely can get stuff for it. How much you value that or how much you use that is kind of up to you. There are limits on things you can get because, again, you're not really supposed to treat people differently based on how much money they have. That's why it's in a product class. But again, it does happen on occasion. Now, this bank, I'll tell a quick story here. This bank has been bought and sold and since been out of business, so I think it's a safe story to tell. But on occasion, I was coming up on the appraisal department, we get a call and like, hey, we need to push this loan through for mortgages, right? And, the bank, it was something for some giant client, a private bank client that the bank had. And, worst case scenario, if the investor, we didn't think the investor was going to buy that loan, the bank would make the decision to put that loan in portfolio, which really means the bank is going to retain it on its balance sheet and not sell the loan. Most of the times you're selling these mortgages to get your money back very quickly. They're not doing that for me. They're doing it because this person was a massive client to the bank, so they will hold their loan on, the balance sheet to make it work. Now, of course, I'm sure it's allowed because they did it. It's just not going to be offered to very many people. You got to have a ton of money. I don't know how much money this individual had, but I've seen things like that happen, which are on a much grander scale than the, hey, I got my cashier's check fee waived, right? So that's overall relationship banking. Now, one downside of that, again, is you end up stuck in an ecosystem, if you will. It's almost no different than like the Apple ecosystem. This stuff, it's designed to work better together. So even though I think the Samsung Galaxy folding phone is really cool, it doesn't work as good with all this other stuff as the iPhone does, or the iPad that I have notes on here, right? So, but again, those people don't really want to shop around, I don't believe. Honestly, most of them don't care to, and that's fine, because again, most people don't want to do all of this, so it makes sense. So overall, that is relationship banking. Now, when we talk about relationship banking here, I hear a lot of times, folks say, hey, well, if you start a relationship with the bank, it's going to make it easier to get a credit card. Is that true? Well, yes and no. It's a tough question to answer, so if we go in order, a lot of times the first thing we'll say to someone is, if you're thinking you're going to be borderline to get this credit card, well, go in branch and open a deposit account. You could just apply for the credit card outright. But if you go in branch, you stack a deposit account bonus on top of it, checking savings bonus on top of it. For those, you can check out profitablecontent.com. We have bonuses on like every bank. So you could do that. And then more often than not, you'll be offered a credit card as long as your credit is pretty solid on the spot. Because that's more of a cross-sell play. It's, yes, you are starting a relationship with the bank and with the banker. But the thing we have to understand is there are still underwriting requirements and guidelines in the background, that things that they're just not going to be able to get around by design. You actually don't want them to be able to get around them, because that would be much riskier for the bank, and then you end up with a lot of these shady things where folks are just kind of opening accounts for everyone, and we've all seen it before, right? So you do have better chances in branch because, one, that banker is usually motivated to open up a new account, because instead of checking a savings account, that's now a credit card. That's 3 accounts. I've really got you a relationship going over here, right? And I do believe underwriting, this is a function of risk management, kind of works with the guidelines and say, well, hey, if they're opening an account, then yes, there is a certain rule set we can use to potentially offer them a card with no credit pool, right? That happens a lot. Just, hey, you're pre-qualified or pre-approved for this card if you take it, right now or in the next 30 days. So that can absolutely happen. Some banks like PNC, I was going to apply for a PNC card for a bonus, but they wouldn't let you apply in line unless you had a relationship with them, which meant, do you have an account open, a deposit account? Banks like that, well, PNC is still a very, very large bank. I think, they want to use it as a cross-selling play, and sometimes banks are weird with credit products because, again, there's no context of why you're applying for this credit card, and I do think sometimes it looks weird of why would you want a credit card if you don't already bank here, right? Again, when I talk to a lot of these bankers who don't know the game, or don't play the game, they find it odd that you have so many cards or accounts that you would do something like this, right? It usually comes up in conversation. So, would I open a checking account to get a credit card? Would I start a banking relationship with a bank to get a credit card? No, probably not. I think the best I would do is I would go in branch and stack offers together. The next time I go to open a PNC account, then yeah, I'll look to get a credit card with them as well. I wouldn't go out of my way to let me move all my money to PNC, build a relationship, and then get a credit card. If you're someone like a student or someone who's trying to rebuild credit, struggling a little bit, you're borderline, then yeah, I think you'll get a little something for it. Opening these two together and starting to have a relationship. But again, the point of this is there are limits, and sometimes I think we get it wrong. We overemphasize the amount that the relationship can do. It can help. Chase sometimes they send out denial letters, for example, and they will cite as a reason like not enough deposit balance, things like that. But, that's more of, again, I think that's more of a risk thing than anything else, right? So the word relationship, I guess, is the tricky word, because it's not really how much do you know me, how much do we know you. It's more so, being risky, right? So if you were denied, for example, and you were under 524, which is Chase's rule that, you can only have open 5 new credit cards within the last 24 months, or it's an instant decline. So if you're 324 and you get denied, you've got $2,500 or $250,000 in the bank, and you call them. Yeah, I do believe there's a set of underwriting guidelines that allow them to take a look and see, well, like, I mean, how much credit are we going to give him? Like, maybe we give him $3,000 to $5,000, but he's got $250K with us. And, if you do default on your card, I believe they can take that money from elsewhere that you have on the bank. So that does help. But again, it's less about the relationship, more about you being less of a risk. Because I believe private client and private bank used to get you over 524. I don't think that's the case anymore, but it used to, because you're really less risky. And back to our original stories, they want to make you happy because rich people know other rich people and bring them to the bank and build relationships. But again, it's not to say you get the best products. I mean, the JP Morgan Reserve is reserved for private client, and that card is the same thing as a Sapphire Reserve, just like $75 more expensive, $25 more expensive for like United Club Access. But again, the thing that they get you on is people like that don't shop around, right? It's like one time BMW tried to offer Apple CarPlay as a paid service. Like, how can they get away with this? Because people who look at BMW don't go look at Toyotas and Ford, so they don't know that everyone's getting that for free or is included elsewhere, right? It's the same kind of deal. So to summarize this one up, is there value to having a relationship with a bank? I mean, it depends on what you're after. I mean, I think if you're going to play the game that we play very aggressively, then I always say pick a home-based account where you keep your money, things like that. But again, I wouldn't see it as a legitimate relationship. These are my friends and they're going to take care of me. Again, we've told the stories. You can sometimes get some fees waived. If you call them, they might help you out. But there is a limit because behind the relationship, it has to be backed by underwriting rules and guidelines. If not, you get into a whole bunch of trouble about discrimination and treating people differently, which is definitely frowned upon very, very much by the CFPB. Now, again, if you don't want to play this game, you're not hunting around for a bunch of different accounts, and yeah, I think pick your favorite bank. But again, don't be married to it because, again, the ones who push these relationship fees are a lot of a lot of time the Power 5 in banking. Like U.S. Bank just came out with their own version of this, but they're never going to offer you competitive rates on savings accounts. Even when they tell you at Platinum Honors, we're offering you higher rates, it's not that much. It's not competitive at all compared to the online guys. Same thing like, hey, well, being in Honors, we'll waive your checking account fee, so there are no minimums. Yeah, but you can still find free checking accounts out there. You can find free credit cards. They're very competitive. So it's really like, it's like anything else. How much work do you want to look around? If you don't want to look around at all, then yeah, Honors is fine. Like, you'll be fine. It's a bank, it's services. You'll just know that in exchange for the comfort and convenience of not looking around, you're giving up on some of the competitive points, which is not a terrible thing as long as you know what you're into. But again, I would be very careful of that word relationship and never forget that they're here to sell us things, make money off of our money, and there's still limits to what they can do because it's backed by underwriting and risk management. So those are my thoughts on relationship banking as someone who has had relationships with many, many, many banks. So I would love to get your thoughts down below. Let me know what bank you think is worth having a relationship with, or what are some of the benefits that you value that you've gotten. Love to hear your thoughts on that. But anyways, guys, if you found this one interesting, go ahead, drop me a thumbs up down below, or better yet, even subscribe to the channel because we're posting content just like this every week, right back here every Sunday with all the news you can use in the week that was in credit and finance. And of course, every day on ProfitableContent.com with a bunch of bonuses, credit cards, and news stories. Love to get you to check out that as well. Start a relationship with me in the website, not with the bank. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this one. As always, thank you so much for watching, and talk to you very soon in the next one.